Hello, this is a video answer to Lipopilot's question on his Twitvid video about the motor mount angle on his Delta Jet. Now before I give you my answer, let me show you what I did on my Delta Jet. I actually gave it about 1 or 2 degrees down angle, and the reason I did this is because of the setup I have on here with the rubber bands. Whenever I landed with the propeller somewhat pointed down, it didn't damage the propeller, it turned, but it pivoted the motor mount back, and it actually pulled the bottom portion of the fuselage back, and it gave it a small stress fracture here. Now I glued it up, it's fine and everything. My plane looks very beat up because, yes, it's seen a lot of flight, and it's going to be retired soon. But anyways, yeah, I didn't know this trend until much later. I didn't notice it, but the motor was tilted up a lot after it, a lot of yanking on it. I put a piece of foam here to counter that. Originally, I did have the motor mounted completely straight. And that worked okay for a while. It was a little tail heavy, I'll admit, but if you see, it got worse and worse as that trend went back. I didn't check it. I didn't notice it. So I, put a bigger battery in and put it as far forward as I could, and I measured the CG out, and it was very far forward. It was about here, when actually the CG should be about here. I'll measure that. It's about, I don't know, a third way back, I don't know. But yeah, if I make plans for this, I'll definitely figure that out. But anyways, yeah, you could try angling the motor down a little bit, but definitely I advise you to have it as straight as possible and see how that flies. If it flies fine right now, then that's completely fine, But I would certainly give this a shot, because I tell you what, with that upward thrust, it even with the CG, just right, it made the plane look like it was tail heavy. It was going up. I got tons of comments about, man, you need to put some weight in the nose and stuff. I think it was Jacques from RC Foam Fighters. Dutch connection. Hey, Jacques. Yeah, he said put some weight in the nose. I said, man, I got it. I got it weighed out just right, and it would still do it. But once I did this, I got a lighter, more powerful battery, 25C instead of a 15C, and I did that, and it flew a lot lighter. With the compensation of putting a heavy battery farther forward, it flew really sluggish, and like it was underpowered. I was like, this is not fun to fly at all. So once I did that, it reinvigorated it, and it was a lot more fun to fly, because maneuvers were a lot easier to pull off, especially pulling up and especially going down before, down elevator wouldn't do anything. But of course with Delta Jets, you have to give it a slight back trim, or up trim, I guess. It's like down on the trim switch. Just by the nature of it. I'm not sure how that exactly works. I'm not an aeronautical engineer or anything, but one other thing. I'm on Ustream. I'm Mitch86. I'm not the Canadian guy. I'm from Ohio, actually. But yeah, I saw your I've been watching your videos on there, and the latest one about building a foam plane part 2. You gave that tip about using your hot glue gun to instead of pulling it back and doing like a really nasty glob bead of glue. You want to actually push it forward, and that's a really good tip. But I'll tell you something that's a little bit better that I do. I actually do a similar thing. I make a big goop at the beginning, and I take a square piece of foam like this, or you could use like any type of little thing like this, maybe a piece of wood or metal, whatever you have. I have lots of foam, so I use foam, okay? So yeah, I pull it back, and I have the 90-degree angle. As I pull it back, it makes a perfect 45 right there. And the reason that's a little bit better than using the nozzle of the hot glue gun is this is round and somewhat more narrow. So as you do the method with this, there will be a small bit of it that will be unused. It'll goosh out around the edges, the area that doesn't contact the foam actually. So you have some glue that isn't being used, and you have the it's not utilizing the entire surface of the foam. But with this, of course, everything is being used. It's making a perfect angle on there. So you could try that, and it's worked a lot better for me. I mean, I know it's survived so many nose hits, and I've made 2 other versions of this plane, and it was only until the 3rd version that I did this method, and it's really holding up. I mean, this is still flying. I mean, come on, that's the proof right there. Now with angles, say I'm trying to. Okay, so like in here, you have the positive and you have the negative angle. You want to use a smaller bit of foam or wood or whatever, and do the same thing. Just drag it back. But yeah, you want to have it narrow so that you get a 45 that's up close against it. But it's really clean. It looks really good. One last thing. One more thing. I asked about EPS foam on the Ustream chat one time, and you didn't know what that was. I asked because you were covering all kinds of different foams, and I knew that there was another type of foam that was used, is EPS, which is pretty much styrofoam. Now, it's not really the best thing to use. It's very hard to work with, but that's what I could find at Home Depot. They didn't have a lot of options. They had the 2-story tall pink foam that was like this thick, and then they had the mashed, sandwiched up $35 pink foam that was mangled and terrible, and you could tell some dude was kicking it around and stuff, using it as a football or whatever. And then they had this. They had insulation paneling is actually what it's called. It's a little over 3 feet tall, and I fashioned this out of 3 sheets of it, actually, and it's pretty thick. I used a hot wire cutter to bevel it. Now, I've never used a hot wire cutter before, so it's not perfect. I might have to sand it. That's another thing about it. It's really difficult to sand, so I'm actually going to probably leave it like this. You can also use a soldering iron. That's what I did to make the elevator cut in there. Or you can use a small Dremel bit to make the little channels for the, like that's the satellite receiver area, and I have different areas for the servo. That's going to be the rudder servo. So it's working out. So I'm going to make a more detailed video about the construction, what goes into this, but it's coming along. It looks farther than it is. I actually have the surfaces done and everything. I have the wing done. I just have to glue it together. So there we go. That'll be flying soon. All right, so that's about it. This has been Mitch, and one more thing about the angle of the motor. Jacques from RC Foam Fighters, he had the same problem with one of his first foam fighter planes, the double barrel. I could be wrong, but I think his motors were actually angled up, and he didn't know about it. And because his had a lot more thrust, it had the problem with it was so terrible. He couldn't get it to fly even, you know. And he finally figured out, you know, the motor had to be straight with it. So he took off the two motors, put one on that was straight, and it flew great. You know, that's a great video. All right, guys, this has been Mitch with the RC Foam Fires Ohio connection. Not really. All right, see you on Ustream or whatever. Later.